Good morning. Thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. This conference is very timely given the years and years of research into immunology. Having worked in the multiple sclerosis space, a very immunologically driven area, it's great to see some advancements finally making its way to the patient to late stages of clinical development. Galena is a significant participant in the immuno-oncology area. We are a diversified oncology biopharmaceutical company. We have a rich immunotherapy development pipeline as well as a commercial pipeline, which I'll talk about. We're also a public company, so I'll direct you to the normal statements regarding our forward-looking statements and comments that may be in this presentation. Our product pipeline is shown here. As I said, we have two commercial products. Both of them are oncology supportive care products, Abstral, which is a rapid-acting fentanyl product for breakthrough cancer pain, and Zuplen's a product we're going to launch here quite shortly for chemotherapy, radiation, and post-operative induced nausea and vomiting. But I really want to focus on our pipeline, our immunotherapy pipeline. We have two programs there. One, Nuvax, which is our lead product in phase 3 clinical trials for prevention of recurrence in breast cancer following standard of care treatment in HER2 1+, 2+ patients, a major unmet medical need with no available standard of care therapy for these patients. We are running a number of other trials with Nuvax as well to expand the clinical footprint of the compound. And we also have some recently announced results in our second program, GAL301, or folate binding protein, in ovarian cancer. The results were quite positive, early and preliminary, but still very exciting. I'll talk about those here later in my short comments. Let me focus on Nuvax and talk a little bit about that. First of all, immunotherapy, the conference today, and I'm sure much of the excitement of ASCO here in the next couple of days is the T cell. The T cell is really at the center for the most part of the majority of immuno-oncology approaches, and all the approaches involve either finding ways to enhance the efficacy of the T cell, either removing the brakes, enhancing the receptors on the T cell. In our case, we actually increase significantly the number of targeted C cells that are present. And we believe in certain situations, and in particular the low, minimal disease burden setting, for example, after a woman has been treated with a standard of care in breast cancer and she has no evidence of disease, we do know that those women still have recurrences. And those recurrences are typically fatal. There are occult cancer cells or micrometastases that are still remaining in the body that can come back and cause cancer. So if we can activate the immune system to prevent those recurrences, to seek out and destroy those cells, we believe that we can be very successful in preventing those recurrences. So our focus is on secondary prevention, as shown in this top box. Again, the prevention of recurrence following standard of care when a woman has no evidence of disease or NED. We also believe that there is a potential for using Nuvax in the primary prevention area, potentially preventing the onset of cancer to begin with in certain women in certain situations. Obviously a fairly lofty goal, but something that I think is within the realm of thinking about and potentially doing some early stage work on as well. In metastatic disease, a combination of Nuvax with a checkpoint inhibitor has the potential to treat metastatic cancer. Nuvax to increase the number of targeted T cells and the checkpoint inhibitor to remove the brakes from the system. Maybe we can ameliorate some of the potential toxic side effects of the checkpoint inhibitors, lowering the amount that's needed, and still obtain the same kind of efficacy that is being seen in some of the early successes with these checkpoint inhibitors. So again, primary focus in secondary prevention of recurrence, with a wide range of other opportunities that we can move into, and this is shown here with our primary focus in our current trials in HER2 1+, 2+ breast cancer, and as well additional trials in combination with Herceptin in both the HER2 1+, 2+ population, as well as a second combination trial in the HER2 3+ patient population, as well as gastric cancer, which is a trial that we're preparing for with our partner, Dr. Reddy's. A number of secondary priorities for us that we're working on, a number of things that are in early stage development here to expand our platform and expand the reach of Nuvax, and some potential opportunities further on in the future and additional indications, additional solid phase tumors. So the clinical trials that we have ongoing now, as I said, the PRESENT trial, which is a top-line trial. I'm going to talk more in detail about that here in just a minute, as well as our combination trials with Herceptin, and our gastric cancer. So let's talk about the phase 3 PRESENT trial, and let's talk a little bit about the data that gets us there. First of all, as I said, even though a woman with breast cancer may be treated and be declared no evidence of disease, we know for a fact that node-positive breast cancer patients, about 25% of those women will recur. That recurrence is usually fatal. The prognosis is very poor, and that recurrence typically happens within the first 2 to 3 years following her treatment. So our goal is to treat these women, generate an immune response to prevent this recurrence from taking place, and thereby allow them to live disease-free. What is Nuvax? Nuvax is a 9-residue peptide. It's directly off the extracellular domain of the HER2 protein. We have shown and widely published the fact that Nuvax can generate a very potent CD8 T cell response. In fact, we can get up to about 2% of the total T cell population to be Nuvax specific, or E75 specific against that particular antigenic determinant on the HER2 receptor. And we've also shown through our phase 2 trial that we can implement a booster program to maintain this immune response over a long period of time. In fact, our phase 2 trial was 5 years, and we were able to maintain a potent and robust CD8 T cell response over that 5-year period. From the phase 2 trial, we identified the phase 3 patient population. Again, HER2 1+, 2+ patients. These are patients that have no indicated targeted therapy for them. And so there's no current treatment for these women, either in the metastatic or in the adjuvant setting. HER2 1+, 2+ patients, node-positive patients, and the peptide is haplotype restricted, so HLA A2, A3. This is the data from the phase 2 trial that gave rise to the phase 3 patient population. We did achieve statistical significance at 24 months and 36 months for disease-free survival, and that is in fact the endpoint of the phase 3 trial. The phase 3 trial schema is shown here. It is being run under an FDA-approved special protocol assessment. The trial is a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial of Nuvax plus GM-CSF versus GM-CSF alone. The special protocol assessment targeted 700 patients for full enrollment. I'm very happy to announce we did achieve complete enrollment last quarter, and we over-enrolled with 758 patients, giving us a more robust statistical viewpoint into the trial. The trial has several upcoming milestones. We have an interim analysis at 70 events, which we, at this point, are predicting to be the end of this year, early next year, based on the current overall event rate. And the endpoint of the trial is also an event-based endpoint, 141 events, or 36 months, whichever is longer. And based on the current event rate and our current analysis, we expect both of those to occur roughly the same time in 2018, about 3 years after the last patient was enrolled. As you can see, the trial is set up. The patients are dosed once a month for 6 months, with a booster once every 6 months thereafter. And as I indicated in the earlier slide, this booster regimen is designed to maintain a very long-term and potent T cell response. So that's the clinical trial outline, the clinical trial schematic. The potential, the commercial potential for Nuvax is quite large. The key take-home is that if you look at the patient population as defined by the current phase 3 trial in the United States alone, we believe it's a almost $3.5 billion market for this product. Again, there is no targeted treatment, HER2-directed therapies for HER2 1+, 2+ patients. There is no product in late-stage development that I'm aware of targeting these patients, and it is an unmet medical need. Again, when these patients recur, it's typically fatal. If you look at the expanded patient populations that we're looking at, the 3+ and additional haplotypes, the market expands quite large, and this is a US only, so expanding to Europe and Asia would add considerably more market. And this does not include potential indications and potential patient settings that we can go into. So this is a very, very large opportunity for us. Let me just spend the last minute or two on GAL301. This is our second immuno-oncology product. GAL301 is also a peptide vaccine working in the adjuvant setting. We are treating ovarian patients, and you can see from this slide, ovarian patients. The only real treatments for these patients now are platinum-based generic therapies, And while patients do tend to have a reasonable response to these therapies, the recurrence rate is very high. About 40 to 50% of women will recur within the first year following treatment. And again, as in breast, these recurrences are typically fatal. We are in the latter stages of a phase 1-2 trial. The phase 1-2 trial is structured with the phase 1 being a dose optimization portion. Phase 2 portion was the optimal biological dose, or OBD, carried forward. We did identify the optimal biological dose of 1,000 micrograms of peptide, and you can see these are preliminary results that were actually just released as an abstract here at ASCO. We do in fact see a very significant reduction in recurrence. In fact, this separation here is statistically significant. Even though it is a small patient population, we've had 1 recurrence in 15 patients on the optimal dose and a 50% recurrence rate in the control group, which is exactly what we would expect to see based on historical standards. So early data on this is very positive, and we're now putting plans together for what our late next stage development will be around GALE 301. A number of key milestones coming up in the next year, and let me focus on the oncology, immuno-oncology programs. NUVAX, we did complete enrollment. We will have an interim analysis at the end of this year. We're very excited by that and look forward to the primary data, top-line data in 2018. And folate binding protein, we will continue to report additional top-line data as it develops, and later this year we'll have the final data on folate binding protein as well, our development plans moving forward later this year. I finish every presentation on this slide as we talked about, and it was talked about in the session that we just held with the panel. We are here for the patients. The goal is to make drugs that work very well. This is the first patient that was enrolled in the PRESENT trial, and I always like to end on this because it just is a very eloquent reminder of why we're here. And I'm happy to take any questions after the presentation. Thank you very much.